Hello, I am Yogini Sunita, and this is Meditation, Yoga, and Stuff podcast. I believe my dharma or my life's purpose is to share my understanding of meditation, yoga, and Ayurveda, holistic healing science of India. I make these amazing wisdoms accessible and adaptable for present times. So let's start.
Hello and welcome to the podcast. Today I am talking about how to become friend with our mind. So I'm going to give you some tips. We're going to discuss what is mind and stuff like that. So according to wisdom of yoga, concept of mind is basically combinations of conscious and unconscious activity of a person. According to wisdom of yoga, our thoughts, our feelings, our memories, our beliefs, even our ego, and how we consciously, subconsciously act in this world, all this comes from the mind, and this is what mind is according to yoga. There are three stages of the mind. According to yoga, there is a conscious, subconscious, and unconscious mind. And all these three minds, we need to work together to move towards enlightenment. And this is understanding of yoga. Yoga also talks about manas, the mind, the buddhi, that is a higher mind, ahankara, which is ego, and there is a lot of discussion in wisdom of yoga about what is mind, how it works, and also there is a lot of understanding of this mind, which is amazing tool we have in our hands. So, mind is something which is we hardly pay attention to be very frank, unless it start causing problem, we don't even pay attention towards the mind. And the thoughts, our mind constantly churning thoughts, all this is happening constantly. But when we really need to pay attention towards this thought, we don't really pay attention towards this thought. We are constantly in fact, looking outwards for solutions. We try to avoid looking into ourselves, and this is where wisdom of yoga tells us that take a pause and slow down and experience or tune into this vast wisdom which is accessible for us through our mind. Human mind is absolutely amazing. We make sense of all these experiences happening around us. So through our senses, we can actually see so much. So for example, imagine you looking around at this moment, and you may notice few things. For example, if you are actually walking and listening to this podcast, or if you are driving, you are looking through your eyes, maybe focusing on maybe the path you have or trees or something like that. But our mind, our senses are noticing a lot more than that. A lot of information is coming in, but to make sense of that, our brain and our mind select the information, and the selection happens on our previous experiences. It happens on our understanding of our life around us. So we have these kind of like selective information storage happens, and that becomes our memory or our understanding of the experience we are having. So this is our mind's gift to us to experience our humanness, in fact. So mind is very, very powerful and amazing a tool But what happens that sometimes we need to face something, our mind is giving us clues, or we are maybe numbing our mind, whatever that may be. Um, we mostly, the reason can be we mostly ignoring what is happening and or numbing from it. And in that case, what happens that the whole system is giving us constant signals, but we are not acknowledging that, and it can develop into something like constant repeated thoughts, which can be either depression, anxiety, or could be anything other mental issues, things like that. Now, our mind repeats lots of thoughts. So I think there was some research done, but my understanding of this research from a very lay person's point of view is that we have almost like 80 to 85,000 thoughts daily. Out of that, 80% of our thoughts are repeated thoughts. So we are constantly repeating the same information again and again. And this creates neurological groove in our system, and it becomes kind of like our habit. So noticing that, understanding that, what if this thought process we have daily, we are repeating, what if this thought process, for example, if it is negative, then we are constantly reliving or repeating the negative thought process. If the thought process is in relation to the anger or sadness, then we are repeating that, and we are creating that almost like a habit. Now, this is where wisdom of yoga is so fantastic. Wisdom of yoga gives us opportunity to bring in one positive thought at a time. So just few moments of, for example, few moments of awareness towards our thoughts, or few moments of just observing our breath, or observing something to focus on, like a mantra, or focus on something positive, like a image of a divine, whatever that divine is for you. Image of that. When we focus on something like this as an anchor for mind, we're giving our mind opportunity to calm down. And this creates maybe one positive thought coming into our maybe 85,000 negative thoughts. Again, I'm exaggerating. This may not be true for everyone. It's just hypothetically, I'm trying to explain that how meditation works, okay? So hang in there with me. So for example, today, if you have added one positive thought like this through your meditation, it can actually works really deeply in our psyche. So that's why meditation, any form of meditation is fine. This brings in that state of positivity in our system. Now remember, if we do regular practice, then we will be repeating this positive cycle of positive thoughts. Slowly and steadily we are injecting more and more positivity in our thoughts, and we are making positivity as our habit. Now, this is about meditation, but I also understand that, from if the mind is extremely busy, if the mind is constantly churning, meditation may not be right to start with. So, what can we do? So, remember, our body and our mind is connected. And so whatever body experiences will also be experienced in mind, and vice versa. In fact, wisdom of yoga says that our body is slow mind. But looking at or understanding this, the yogis also realize that if we bring the positivity in the body by moving body in certain way, we are actually creating positivity in the brain. So that's why you will see that all the yoga practices have a special sequence to it. It is also about it's about physical body, yes, but it is also in relation to the energetic body and in relation to our mind as well. And so you may also notice that there is a flow to asana class, or there has to be flow to asana class, correct flow, where the practice starts with awareness, then it builds up, and then it cools down or slow down, ends into relaxation. And what relaxation does is it actually neurologically we save information we created, because it is very important to save the information in our system. So Shavasana, the relaxation works like that. Now, when we are doing any asana practice, we do equally on both sides. And the reason for that is again, we are working with the brain, working with the mind, that we're using both sides of our body equally. Now, from here, this is a one way of looking at it, like, body mind connection, moving with the breath. Energetically, there is a lot of things happening. So we're bringing in positivity into our body and through that into our mind. And this is a channel which is easily accessible for a lot of people, because we can connect with the movements of the body. Sometimes connecting with the mind directly can be challenging, but we can start with our body. And that's why wisdom of yoga has this amazing understanding of that. And that's why there are 8 different doors which we can enter through, which is called 8 limbs of yoga. And a physical movement is one part of that. Another door to enter or connect with our mind is our breath. In fact, in wisdom of yoga, it is considered the breath is the key. Now, when we connect with our breath, we start noticing that if the mind is worried or sad or in other states, the breath is different. If the mind is happy, the breath is different. So we start noticing this deep connection with the mind and the breath. And what yogis realize that this is again a very subtle yet very powerful tool we have. So that's why yoga's pranayama practices, the breathing practices, are absolutely fantastic. But if you don't know where to learn these practices from, that's okay too. You can just observe your breath and you'll notice that even now, just bring your awareness towards your breath for a few moments. And when you do that, you will start noticing that you're actually deepening your breath, just bringing awareness. We don't want like a labored inhale and labored exhale. That's not the point. The point is subtly deepen the breath to use all part of our lungs. So we mostly use the top of our lungs, maybe middle, but not the lowest part of the lungs. That happens for most of us. And so what we do here is yoga understand that where mind goes, prana follows. And prana means you can call it chi or the divine energy, or you can call it breath. In our system, prana represents as breath. So when we bring awareness towards, say, for example, lowest part of our lungs, we can actually bring that awareness there, and that awareness, the breath reaches maybe that area. And this brings a feeling of stillness, feeling of calmness. So we don't have to really take a labored inhale or exhale, but just awareness towards lowest part of your lungs and noticing your breath is reaching there very calmly, gently. You will notice that the breath elongates and it becomes really easier for system to sustain that for a few moments. Now, doing this actually the gases exchange happen and we oxygenate our system and we feel fresh and happy So that's what the amazing power of the breath is. When we start noticing that we are anxious, the breath is shallow, and so we have then tool in our hands. What can we do? Can we take a slower breath, more fuller breath, to reduce this anxiety? And a lot of time it works. So this understanding of mind and the breath connection is very powerful. So we can become friend of our breath, and our mind will become our friend as well. When we become friend of our body, our mind will become our friend as well. So there are so many ways to connect with the mind and the body and the breath. Now from here we can also tune into what is it really mind wants to pay attention towards. Like sometimes mind is buzzing or angry about something. What if we start noticing that what is this all about? Sometimes it could be the just the latent impression on our mind, which is called Sanskaras. And Sanskaras is something where a story attached to experience in our childhood or maybe any time of our life. And then we create this story around it that, maybe something is not right for us, or maybe something is really amazing for us. But there is a lot of story attached to it. But the thing is, it is what it is. For example, let me give you example. For example, maybe color purple, okay? And in your childhood, maybe you were wearing something purple and you fell down, and then maybe it happened few other times, and some bad things happened and you were wearing something purple, and you associated now that purple is bad luck, and the mind has now created this story, and we have now attached to this story, and this is what sanskara is. But we also know that it is not color purpose fault, it's just that this is the story we are telling ourselves. The sanskaras also come from the family we grew up, the society we grow up. The whole society, like if we are growing into in a country which has certain traditions which we follow, then our sanskaras will adapt to that. Then also the family traditions, we also learn from the adults in our life. So we embody their sanskaras as well. And so this whole hodgepodge of this I should say layers of our mind, we through these veils or layers we see the world outside. And wisdom of yoga is basically helps us to start noticing or start understanding that the reality is different than what our mind think that reality is. So this story sometimes mind creates is can be really huge baggage, and when we carry this baggage around, it is really it becomes very heavy, so much so that sometimes we can't carry it. And that's where the mental health thing happens. Mental health issues may come up. Also, it affects the whole being, because remember, the mind and body is connected, so it is going to affect the whole being as well. There also is something called flight or fight response. Is also known as flight or fight or freeze response, and also rest and digest response. And these are our reactions. And what happens that say in the wild, if an animal is attacked, it goes into flight or fight mode. And when the attack when the animal is safe, it goes into rest and digest mode. You may have seen in documentaries or in real life where say for example a deer eating grass hears something, it goes into complete alert mode. It will look around, continue listening to any danger. And when it realizes that there is no danger, it shakes its body and go back into the grazing again, But what happens for our human mind is, let's take an example of modern world now. So example is maybe you have to do a presentation in your office. We actually secrete the same hormones as flight and fight. Maybe boss is grouchy and you have to face that. All this is happening. And when the presentation is done and it is successful or not successful, doesn't matter. When it is done, we should be able to shake that feeling off. But most of the time, it doesn't happen. And we still have all that chemicals flowing in our system. And then maybe there is a next meeting or driving back, road rage and things like that, busy city life. So all this creates still constant like fight and flight syndrome. It's constantly happening. And we kind of like, it becomes habit that it's constantly these hormones, is chemicals which our brain creates floating in our system. And mind doesn't know how to rest and digest because it is constantly into flight and fight mode. So this is where, again, taking a pause and noticing what's really happening is very valuable. And that's why, anyhow, if you can bring in the practices which are calming practices, which are relaxing practices, which are self-care practices for your system, that brings us to move away from that flight and fight mode towards rest and digest mode. Because if this balance is not there in our life, it affects our health, it affects our mental health, it affects our physical health. In general, it affects everything. It affects our relationship. So everything is affected by this. So how can we become friend with our mind? What can we do to become friend with anyone really in our life? We had to stop and listen, spend more time with the friend. So that's what exactly we need to do. We have to pay attention towards what's happening in the mind. And I have seen that in my many years of teaching, I have seen that people are sometimes afraid of facing their mind. There is a lot of fear comes up, and this could be, this could be that, the fear of facing the mind, sometimes people don't know what will come up. But unless we stop and face our mind, we cannot really let go of the burden mind is carrying. So we need to listen to our friend, which is our mind. We need to also keep this friendship going regularly, so if we have to put some effort into it. And how can we do that? We also need to listen to our mind as well. So the listening, not just forcing mind to do what we want, but also listening to the mind is very important. Spending time with the mind by just maybe taking a pause, into your day-to-day activity, and just noticing what's happening with the mind. Meditation is really beautiful way to connect with the mind. But there are also other relaxation practices like restorative yoga. There are also the shavasana practices, which are relaxation at the end of yoga asana practices. There are also beautiful other practices, which is basically doing what you love. Once a day at least, doing what you love, paying attention towards what are you doing throughout the day and doing what you love, and also doing one new thing regularly. That is also very important. Self-care is absolutely important. And in this modern world, what has happened that we're living very busy life, and we don't even know why we are running around and living this busy life. It has become habit, but what if we take pause and start noticing that what is really happening, and is this exactly do you want in your life? Tuning into that, noticing, maybe taking a slower pace life, slowing down, noticing what really happening in life at this moment. And also asking yourself that is this what you want? And is this what you need? Sometimes our want and our need are two different things. So tuning into that. And this is how we can become friend with our mind, really connecting with the mind, listening to the mind. And you will start noticing that the more we start listen to our mind, the more the colored emotions of our mind will become less colorful. So what happens that the thoughts comes with a lot of colorings of emotion. But when we become observer, we start noticing that this color is attached to experiences in our life, the Samskaras in our life, the latent impressions. When we start noticing that, actually this experience may not be necessarily serving me, or maybe this experience was not exactly what I remember, because the experience what you have stored in your mind maybe was completely different, but you have stored this as a story form. So this is a story you're telling yourself, or the mind is telling us. And what we can do is listen to the story, acknowledge it, and allow it to let go. Because how much burden can we carry? And it is not worth it. So it is time to keep this burden down and let go. I'm going to tell you a story of an Indian queen. So this queen was amazing. She was just queen. She was so nice. She was really, really helping the whole kingdom, so much so that everyone in her kingdom was happy. And she was constantly worried about the kingdom, making sure that everyone is happy. She was constantly worrying, and that was taking toll on her system. So one of the queen's grandmother from her mother's side came to visit her. And the grandmother said to her that, "What's happening, honey? Why you're looking so worried? What's happening? Everything looks so happy. Everyone looks so happy. Everything looks so smoothly running. What is the reason for your worries now?" And the queen says, "Well, everything is working now, but what if something goes wrong? Or what if I fail? Or what is this happening?" So she had lots of questions on those lines. And so she was talking with grandmother, and suddenly grandmother stopped, and they were walking in the garden. Suddenly grandmother stopped walking, looked around, and queen said, "What's happening? What's happening?" And grandma goes to this big tree and hugs the tree. And queen said, "Oh, grandma, what's happening? Is this auspicious tree? Why you're hugging the tree?" And grandma says, "Oh, tree, please let me go. Please let me go, tree. Please let me go. Oh, tree." And the queen is baffled. She said, "Grandma, The queen is, the tree is not holding you, you are holding the tree. So the queen was telling grandmother that the grandma, let go of the tree. You're holding the tree, let it go. And the grandma stops and looks at the queen and said, exactly. And it was like a light bulb moment for the queen, because queen was holding on to everything. She was taking almost day-to-day decisions. There was no delegation of the work, and yes, her people around her were very happy, but she was so stressed with that worry in her life that she wasn't relaxed. She was not happy. And so this is where the queen realized that she had to delegate, she has to let go of holding on to this, to be so perfect all the time. And so moral of this story is that we have to let go as well. If there is a possibility of delegation, delegate your work. You don't have to carry all the burden. If there is a possibility of collaborating, do that. I love to collaborate with people. And you also learn from your people around you. Also, if there is need to communicate, please communicate, because if the queen has not communicated with her grandmother, nobody would have known that she was so stressed. Especially the grandmother would have not known if the queen was this much in stress. So there would have not been any help. So this is very important to also communicate our needs, our feelings. It is very important in any relationship. May it be a home relationship with your partner, your kids, relationship with your co-workers, if you're self-employed, relationship with your clients. It's very important to communicate. And this communication is where the human has built our whole existence. And so it is very important to also not just become friend of our mind, but also other people's mind, and understanding them, being kind, compassionate. All this is what makes us human. I hope that today's podcast helped you to become friend with your mind. On my website, there are 4 meditations which will help you to connect with your mind. There is also one asana session, yoga movements, which will help you to connect with your body, and these all are free. So feel free to head over my website and you can download them or opt in. I hope that you enjoyed today's podcast.
Thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate that you're taking this time out of your day. Don't forget to subscribe. Take care. Bye for now.